need more volume. Okay. Welcome to the Living Consciously TV show, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. I am your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is how to follow your own rules. What a great theme. So let me introduce you to our guest cast as well as our Spirituality Evolution cast. Our guest cast today is Jessica McGregor Johnson. She's a life coach and joining us from the United Kingdom. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Lovely to be with you.
It's great to have the Europeans represented today. and also, I'd like to welcome Jenna Cook, who's just sitting right next to me in the studio. And she's also part of our Health and Wellness Evolution cast, and she's living right here in Denver. And time to time, she comes in and joins us on the show. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, time to time. And we also have Ninon Divor de Rosa, and she's our Self-Evolution cast member, and she's joining us from that really ritzy place called Hot, Las Vegas.
Every time you give it a different description, I'm beginning to wonder where I live, but it is Las Vegas. Hi, Steve. Hi, Jessica.
It's a very unique place. Yeah, there's only one of those in the entire world.
Yeah.
And also, last but not least, Linda Dyer. She is also part of our Self-Evolution cast, and she's joining us from down under, the Australia continent.
Yes, upside down, but with it.
You don't look upside down to me.
The mind turns you back.
Let me declare that this is an international Living Consciously TV show today. All right, so the leading question goes out to Jessica, and my question is, what do you think distracts people from their own inner guidance?
Oh, that's a big one. Well,
Life gets in the way.
I think a lot of the time what distracts us from our inner guidance is that we're actually we're talked out of it when we're young. When we're children, we're in touch with our inner guidance. We're in touch with our emotional bodies. We're in touch with our kind of emotions, which is the kind of the feedback system that we have. And then we are gradually taught not to listen to it. And so a lot of people don't even know it's there when they're grown up. We're grown up as in adult years, whether we're grown up as in kind of our soul's growth is a different matter. But I think a lot of the time it actually starts really young. I can remember, being a child and having the tantrums and everything else and feeling the frustration and being told to control yourself, and I can remember that feeling of just being kind of like pushed back in and not being allowed to express what was going on. And I think that's why a lot of people just, some don't even know they've got that inner guidance system, and others have had it suppressed for so long that they're not really sure how to access it.
Very interesting. And I, of course, completely agree with you. So I want to respect our theme today, which is how to follow your own rules. So we're going to be talking about that throughout the entire show. But obviously, there must be lots of other rules that people are living by. Can we, maybe each of us could give some examples of what that means or what it looks like, what it feels like, not be really living with our own rules. So if we're not living with our own rules, then what are we doing? What are we using?
Well, we know through Robert Dilts and Maslow and quite a few people that for the first 7 years, we've got everybody else's rules coming into us. We don't, in fact, have consciousness. We have all the different values, beliefs, decisions, experiences, everything coming in from whoever is our guardian. So if mum and dad are our main guardians, and that's not for everybody, then we've got their values, their beliefs, their experiences, and we're whatever emanated from them. And then we might have the teacher and the next door neighbour, the brother, the sister, whatever. All that's coming into us, and we don't have the ability to question. And there's lots of don'ts. You can't do that because you're a little girl. You can't do that because you're not old enough. You can't. It's like the guy from Evolve Your Brain, Joe Dispenza. He said we're born so beautiful, and then we're just told what not to do.
Yeah.
So would you say that we're being programmed?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. Because I remember as a child, being brought up in England, which we all know on this show, when I sat, lunch was our main meal, and I remember that, we weren't allowed to talk. It was always shut up, behave yourself, and don't do anything. So we'd all sit there like little statues, and when that's bred into you for sort of, till you're 14, 15 years old, that's an awful long time to be told to be quiet. And then you come out into the world and you realize that, oh, wait a second, I do have a voice out there and I can. So it sort of starts to sort of get in, when you're 16, 17, that you can actually have a voice out there and you can sort of start cluing into yourself as to who you are, and all these things that were depressed and you were shut up not to do, you can now sort of bring them out, and you can now sort of start being yourself and who you are.
Yeah, and I think also to say that we all go through that in some way or another. We have that programming, whoever it comes from, but that programming for the most part was done through love, because that was what our parents and our guardians knew. That was the way that they were taught, and they are passing on that information because they think that's the best way to be in the world. And so it's not a matter of kind of saying it's all that's where the problem lies. It's like that's just evolution of human consciousness in a way. Is we're born these wonderful, beautiful beings, and then we take on all this conditioning, and I've seen a few parents nowadays who are doing it differently and who are actually not squashing that on so much. But that wasn't known particularly. I mean, I'm 55, so when I was a child, there was a whole load of shoulds and a whole load of ought tos, and this is the way you do, and this is what you follow. And I wasn't even a teenager when I realised that I didn't have to follow that. I literally got this picture of everything that you should do and have and be, actually not be, just do and have. And it was only once I'd actually reached all that I went, hold on a second, this actually doesn't make me very happy.
Yeah.
There must be something else.
Yeah, because it really wasn't what you wanted. It was what somebody else has wanted for you.
Absolutely.
But I think what you said, Jessica, when you said, the parents and people were only doing their best, and they were, but it's so funny because as we go on in life, each parent says, well, I'm not going to bring you up how my mother and father brought me up. And we have this old cliche that I'm going to make it different. So each sort of, generation that goes along, we all become this different person. And I think children are more free than they've ever been of being allowed to do what they want. I don't know if that's so good sometimes when I see somehow some of these children act, but at the same time, it's a free feeling for the person.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember I was very rebellious when I was young, so I probably still am. Some people call me I'm hard-headed or stubborn.
I was going to say, we can't believe that, Steve. We can't believe it.
But I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do based on my values and based on my feelings and what I want to do. My life is not based on what somebody else wants me to do, unless it's a client. That's different.
Was it at one time, though, Steve? Was it at one time, that you used to do what everybody else told you to do?
Maybe when I was probably up to maybe 12. And then once I became 12 years old and I realized that there is a lot more to this life than just do what my parents and everybody in school was telling me to do, all hell
broke loose,
yes. I got into trouble with everybody and everything.
No.
It's not an easy path when you're that young, to be breaking the rules, because you get labeled the rebel and everything else, don't you?
Yes, I was. I actually, believe it or not, I got a hold of a T-shirt. I don't remember exactly how I got a hold of it, but somehow on the black market that had an American flag on it. And remember, this is in a communist country, so I was wearing it on the trains and on the buses, and people were actually spitting on me.
But you still kept it on.
And I didn't really care.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Just the fact that I could make them upset and realize that, this whole communist thing is really not working, that was good enough for me.
That's a great example of how to break the rule.
Yeah. Just that I could aggravate them. And of course, I knew a lot of other people that were really serious communists. Well, oh boy.
You didn't wear the T-shirt around
they took that stuff really, really seriously. And
Over a T-shirt.
by the way, that's something I think we should talk about. Like, there's all these concepts in the world, and which most of them are all kinds of rules that we make up, and we take them so seriously. I feel like people get like this is really the way it must be, and they get really, really serious.
Well, I break a
Well,
lot of
that's
those
because
rules.
that's what culture is, Steve. I mean, think about it. Culture is just a whole bunch of habits that everybody agreed on.
But somebody
and-
just made
and
it
have
up.
Lived.
And that
Yeah,
somebody
that's
could have
right.
been an absolute idiot, and then hundreds of thousands of people and millions of them follow them.
Yeah.
This is
And
why
they'll die
America
for
is. But this is why America is so free. I mean, America is one of the few countries that is just so free for people to actually do whatever they would like to do. And you know, you fail, you do, you win, you whatever you do, that's your business. And that's why I think you get so many people coming to America, because if they can actually go and open a business and do their thing and either make it or fail, and nobody really minds, and they become their own person here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only they don't mind, they don't really care.
No, well, now they don't. No, that's true too.
Do your thing.
Yeah. do
Yeah,
your
I mean,
thing.
that is definitely still absolutely great about this country. So how do we help? How do we serve people? How do we serve our viewers by maybe giving them some assistance how people can create their own rules? Because the way I kind of see this is that it's a game. Life for me is a game. I don't know about you, but you can jump in anytime.
That's how you
But
play the game.
it's like a game. It's like any
how
other
you
game.
play the
Everything
game.
that we play is a game.
Everything we do is how you play the
You know,
how you,
including
you're
like for
perfect-
Ninon, it's real estate. That's a game. It has all kinds of rules, right?
Absolutely, but I break them all the time. I do because I do it my way. I mean, I've been going through modifications, and I've probably broken every rule in the book because everybody said, "Well, you can't do this. You've got to get a lawyer. You've got to do this. You've got to do that." And I'm saying, "Well, wait a second. I'm going to do it my way." And believe me, I did it my way, and I succeeded. And I did what the banks needed me to do, give them the papers and everything, but it was all from me of what I wanted to do, and I won. So it was my way, and I did break the rules, but
But
Right.
you
So,
followed
I mean,
her rules.
it is useful to know, I think, what the rules are. Because if I look back to my teenage years when I was in a communist country, I wasn't as smart or didn't have as much wisdom as I have today. Because what I did is I declared war. And I'm noticing now, as I'm getting a little bit older and wiser, that that's not a good idea.
Well, it's luckily you survived it.
Steve, I think I would question that because you actually escaped and you did your own will and your own thing and you actually achieved an awful lot in your life. And if you hadn't done your feelings and what you wanted to do, you would not have done that. So I think it was a good idea for you to do what you did.
And those were your own rules.
Yeah.
Yeah,
were
and
your
I
own
think
rules.
everybody has a different
Yeah,
level
and I was
of breaking the
lucky
rules.
that I survived because I could have easily been dead.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you weren't lucky. You made it happen that way, Steve. That's what you actually put in there. You put yourself into places and positions that nothing would happen to you because you were smart enough to know your own inner side of what to do and how to do it. And that's why you escaped and did so well.
Yeah. So Jessica, what's your example of that? Like, how did you develop your own rules, and how did you play some games that you played with your own rules and still get the job done?
I think everybody has a different degree of own rules. I think it's very difficult to say, there's one way to do it. You did what you did to kind of create the freedom in your life. And I mean, for me, I suppose my breaking of the rules was quite a radical one, in such that I had a corporate life and worked in London, and then I went to live in an ashram for 4 years, which was a huge breaking of my cultural rules. You didn't go and do stuff like that, and it's like, what?
Yeah, a lot of viewers may not know what that is. Would you explain what an ashram is?
Yeah, certainly. An ashram is an Indian spiritual retreat site. It's like a monastery, but it's in the Indian tradition. And I had gone to visit the Mother Ashram, which is just north of Mumbai, And then about 2 or 3 years later, I was working in London, and I just got an inner impulse. And in fact, I had plans to go and live in Southern Ireland. But then I was in a program one day, and I just got this incredibly strong impulse that I had to go to live in the ashram in America, which was the global headquarters, and offer my service there. And I kind of ignored it. It was in the middle of this meditation program. And then when I came out of the meditation program, one of the women who was in this course with me said to me, "I hear you're going to live in the ashram." And I went,
Who heard that?
okay. And literally 6 weeks later, I was in America going, what happened? But it was just the thing. And I think that's one of the things that I say is that there's often an inner prompting that just gets so strong that it's almost painful not to listen to it. And I think a lot of people, when I can go back a couple of years, a similar thing, when I had the same inner prompting when I went to the ashram in India for the first time, and I tried really, really hard to ignore it, and it was incredibly stressful to ignore it. And I think a lot of the people that I talk to through the work that I do, they're at that point where they're ignoring that huge push inside of them to go and change their life in some way. It might not be as radical as going and live in an ashram for 4 years, but it's going to be a change. And I think that's the thing that we have to train ourselves to start to listen to. And because when we don't listen to it is when we feel stressed, it's when things start to go wrong in life. And that's all the indications that, hey guys, there's something you're not listening to here. And when that moment, when at the time previously when I was ignoring it, I really did almost get ill through ignoring it. And then finally one day I went, oh, right already, I'll go. Kind of like,
You're so right. You're so right on all that.
And the next day I went in and I said to my friend who I was working for, I was running a retreat site by then, and I said, I'm really sorry, but I have to resign my job, and I'm not really quite sure why, but I have to go to India and I need to resign to go to India. And she went, okay. She said, you look so much better. She said, I've been watching you for the last 6 weeks, struggling with this decision, and I'm so glad you made the decision. And she could see it on me. And so I think that's it, that a lot of us get a kind of a very uncomfortable feeling that something isn't quite right. And the more we don't listen to that, almost the more haywire life becomes, until in the end you have to go, oh, what? Okay, I'll do something. And then...
Yeah, and you're right, Jessica. It's like saying that, it's okay to do your feeling. It's okay if you've got something in that you want to go and do, because I did the same as you, actually. But I went to Beirut. Of all places, and I was like, I don't know, 22, 23, very young, and everybody thought I was absolutely crazy. You can't go there, you can't do that. But my gut feeling and my whole feeling was saying, yes, I want to go there and I want to experience this. And it was sort of, and I just made my mind up, and I thought, no one's going to tell me not to. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I went over and obviously had a great time. But it is, I think people get very inhibited about, is it okay to do what I want to do? And I think they think, because they're so used to growing up with the mum and dad and the whoever is telling them what to do, that they say, is it okay for me to do it? Will I be okay? They question themselves too much rather than saying, go for it. And if it doesn't work, go back. It doesn't matter.
And I think that's the key thing. Will I be okay? Because in our culture that we have nowadays, we are being taught so often to be safe and be secure. And I think when we're following our inner prompting, we're often not safe and secure, but we are, I think, more secure in some ways because we're listening to the guidance within us. And often I find it's that permission almost. It's not that I give people permission, but I help them give themselves permission to follow that inner prompting in their lives and go for what they want, and not be so worried about the safety.
Take it, go for it. You only live once. We're born, we're all born the same way, and we all die the same way. It's the last breath, the first breath, and the last breath. Take in everything. There's a whole world out there, and don't be inhibited, I guess, by other people or even by your own inner feelings. Nothing can happen. Believe me, nothing can happen. It could happen where you're living right now.
Yeah.
But even if it does happen, it's what can I learn from that?
Yes.
It's not a failure. It's what can I learn from that to take me to the next level. I think for me, it was a combination of having the guts to go and do something. But also it's different, I think, for women, because it was like my dad is also from England, and he was going, but why do you want to go to overseas to university? You're a girl. None of the girls in our family even have a middle name, because all the boys do. It's quite interesting. Gorgeous man. He's still alive today, nearly 90. And he's just a wonderful man, but that was just tradition. So for me to say to him, I'm working 4 jobs, I'm going to go to university, it was like, what the? And I did. And I went, and I went all around Europe by myself, and England, Scotland, Wales, and then finally ended up in America with the same amount of money because the Australian dollar was so good.
That's right. It's a 2-for-1 on something.
It started my degrees. So it's that push, but it's that, gosh, how can I do it if I'm a woman? How can I do it if I'm young? How can I do it if and you can. As you say, the only way you're going to listen to the messages, though, is just be quiet for a while.
Yeah.
The messages are all the time.
It's like finding that okay. Where's that okay message? Where's that okay that I can do it? And you're kind of waiting for it and hanging in for it. And it's really coming from you. It's not anybody else. It's what you want to do. You're the okay.
Yeah. And another thing I think is that often that when you first start hearing those and getting those kind of messages, we have a tendency to go and then talk to our family about it. And I'm often saying, no, not quite yet.
It's just like a disaster.
Because they're the ones who are going to kind of push you back into your safety box. And it's almost like it has to grow into you to such a degree that you feel so yes about it. I can remember when I decided to go to America to go and live in the ashram, I didn't tell my mother until I was so absolutely clear, that's the word I'm looking for, absolutely clear about what it was that I wanted and why I wanted to do it. And I remember I went in and I told her, and she, beautiful kind of matriarch that she was, she raised one eyebrow, which is what she used to do to me when I was about 5. She went, I forbid you to go. Oh. And I went, Mum, I'm not 5 anymore. And I want to go. And I told her why I wanted to go. And she was really silent and she went, okay. And that's because I'd spoken from the heart. Yeah. I'd come from that real strong feeling like this is absolutely where I want to go with my life. And she could hear it. She didn't know why she could hear it. She didn't know why she wasn't still raising her eyebrows at me, but she wasn't.
As a woman, she was admiring you too. She was looking at you as a woman probably of something she had never done and never had that experience because she'd never had that gut feeling. And you come along and you say, I'm going. In other words, I really don't care what you say. You didn't say that, but you kind of implied that. Well, Mum, I'm really going. And then she suddenly sort of probably let go of that breath and said, okay. I could just see it, but reluctantly too, though, because it's a mum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jessica, what advice could you give to our viewers, the ones that are probably not where we are as our level, but for those viewers out there, let's pick a woman probably in her 30s. She's got 3 or 4 children, and she's got a family and a husband and a job. What would be your advice to her to start down her path to following her own rules? Because it's not simply I'm there, because it is a process. So what advice would you give her, especially to the viewers? I think that'd be most helpful.
Start small.
Start small.
Start small.
How so?
I think because if you feel you have to make a huge shift and a change in your life, it's daunting, and you don't know how to juggle it with husbands and jobs and families and everything else. So, and if you're not used to listening to that inner voice, then you don't trust it enough yet.
And what example would it be for starting small? Could we give an example?
Starting small might be that you get a feeling, for example, to reach out to somebody. And you might have a busy life, and normally those feelings you might just get ignored, and you don't. But if you get those kind of feelings, pick up the phone and speak to somebody. You might say, oh, I was just thinking about, I needed to speak to you. It's those little promptings that we need to start listening to, and we need to start practicing. and testing them to see if they're right. You know, there's the old things, you know, you walk out the door and you've left the oven on. You know, that's a real mundane one. But I think a lot of the time I found when I was learning to listen to that voice, it was little things around people doing something. If I got a hit to do something for somebody, I would do it. Or if I got a hit to pick up the phone and talk to someone. And often I learned by the times when I didn't listen. So, for example, I had a time which always sticks with me because it's a really sad thing for me. But I had a friend who I hadn't spoken to for many, many years. And I got this feeling one day, oh, I should really reach out to her again. And I was busy and everything else, and I didn't. And 3 weeks later, her husband called me, and she died. And that was such a lesson for me to know when I get that feeling again, when I get that inner prompting, next time I'm really going to listen to that and do it. And that's what I mean by starting small. It's not like suddenly you have to go and change and, you know, leave your life and go and live it totally differently. But you do have to start to get in touch with those inner promptings that you get and test them out, see if they're right.
When I had a little baby, Jessica, I thought, gosh, I was always so career-minded, and here I was with this, you know, gorgeous little boy. And then I got this call to go and lecture, and I thought, how can I do this? And I thought, this is a perfect age to do this. And I put him in a bassinet and I said to him the other day, you must be so learned. Because he was in the corner of a university lecturing room. But you know what, they don't have to leave home and do full-on work. We're not saying that. But if you get a calling that there's something there for you, I took my son with me. And then when I got the job at the hospital and turned the hospital into a wellness centre, I took my son with me. He came around. We started a travel business there. He came with me on the trips. You know, there are so many wonderful things you can do with your children where work and career can marry up. They don't have to be totally opposite.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of a story of somebody that I worked with once who realised many years later that a lot of those opportunities she had come to her and they'd been kind of challenging ones and they would have taken her outside her comfort zone, and she'd used her children as the excuse not to do them.
Yes. I've got a friend that does that all the time. She's got 8 children and she's always saying, oh, it's my children. I said, one day you'll forget to use them as an excuse.
Yeah.
The children will be grown up and gone.
So what are the top 3 excuses you all know that people use as a way to talk themselves out of their calling?
Well, it's usually family, you know, like I have to look after my mother. So you could use quantum physics on that, which is wonderful. What would happen if you didn't?
Still be alive.
No, quite often they say, oh, my brother will have to come down. Well, okay then, so you really don't have to look after your mother. Oops.
Time is another. I don't have the time. Just can't find the time.
We're always working. Don't have the time because I'm always working. I've got a family to take care of, children to go to school, and you're true. Most people make an excuse. I don't think not to do it, but maybe not how to get where they need to get, which is what you were saying. Start with one little thing. I think they get they want to do a whole bunch of things for themselves and have their own kind of life, but they don't quite know how to start it. And I think you said a great thing, Jessica. Start with that one thing and don't get boggled down with 10 things. You know, you get all these, I want to do 10 things. No, start with that one thing and go ahead and do it. And I think that was a very good message out there.
But I think another thing too is when you're working and you're earning, you know, reasonable money, for somebody to have that gut feeling, but, you know, it's just not what I want to do. You know, yes, I'm good at it. Yes, I can make it happen. And then, however, it's just not what I want to do. My dream is still not being reached. And so they're tied up between the amount of money they're earning, you know, because it's helping the family live this lifestyle. You can have the boat and the house and the pool and the what have you. However, your inner calling is still not totally met. And I remember going through that. And then one day I just said, you know, I remember bursting into tears in the office, and the girl said, what's going on? And I said, I've reached a brick wall. and I need to go and do what I want to do now. I've created a wellness centre here, and that's great. You girls can take this over. I really want to go and do what I want to do. But it's that, how can I lose all that money from those wages that were coming into the family? Because it takes time to set up what I want to do, you know, and I may or may not be earning some income in that.
It's such a risk.
So money is a big one. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, that's such a
absolutely.
risk. Oh, actually, I just did this. I did this a year ago, and I'm an older woman, and I literally picked everything up from Los Angeles and moved to Vegas and starting a complete new life. I didn't know many people here, although I had business here with real estate, but I didn't really. But it's a very big change. But you just got to sort of, you know, it's an emotional thing that goes on when you're older. Is it going to work? Am I going to meet people? But I just let all that go, and I thought, no, I'm going to actually do this. And I picked up, and you have to organize it, obviously. But it was a big move. But it's a gutsy thing to do when you're older. But at the same time, now, because it's a year later, I'm absolutely thrilled because I've got to know so many people. But I didn't know that at that time. But I took the reins, and I thought, I've got to do this because I was breaking from a whole bunch of stuff in Los Angeles, and it was the greatest thing I ever did. It's just worked out beautifully. But it is taking that initial sort of, you know, gutsy thing to go out there. It's taking a risk. Taking a risk.
Well, how long was that inside of you though before you actually made the move? How long
it was
did
probably
you...
well, I hate to say how long it was, but I'll be truthful. It was probably about 2 years. To get it organized and get it done. But it definitely was a plan, and it was a plan that was kind of working that took 2 years because I already had property in Vegas, and I was going back and forth. But at the same time, it was really getting rid of the house. My husband had passed away, and I was still in the house that we lived in, and it was still that sort of feeling of he was always there. So it was actually making that break, and that was the tough part of making that break from him. Which I made, and that was really tough. But I had to make it, otherwise I was not going to have a life. But it did take a couple of years to sort it out.
Yeah.
I want to go back to one of the points that you made, Lynn, is about money, is that often a lot of people, you know, when I'm talking to people and they're talking about all the wealth that they have and the money they have coming in, I think it's a really useful thing to look at it and like, how much is that money the antidote to the life that you're not enjoying living?
Absolutely.
And how much of that, and it's a question I often ask, you just have a look at the lifestyle and everything that you do. If you were following your passion, if you were really following that inner prompting and doing something that you absolutely loved, how much of that would you actually no longer need?
Yeah.
And it's not to say you have to give up everything and you have to lower your whole kind of lifestyle, but it's just a wake up to realize that actually there's different ways that you can look at your life and kind of create happiness from it.
Yeah, and creating what you just did, if you're doing something, you're your passion and you really like it, then the money really doesn't matter, because all those things that bought and all those things you had and all that stuff, all of a sudden they've disappeared, and you're so content and happy with actually doing your passion of what you want that none of that matters.
I remember when I was in America and I'd finished my degrees and I needed to come back to Australia, and everybody flew home, and I thought, how boring is that? So I decided I was going to find my dad's family. He lost them in the war. And I had no money, and I thought, however, I just had this gut feeling that I'm going to do that. And then this guy just approaches me on the campus, and I go, "G'day, John, how you going?" And he says, "Great," but he said, I'm looking for work. And I said, "Oh, I'm looking for a ticket to England." And he said, "Well, I've got a ticket to England." And I said, "Well, I've got a job. Let's swap." And we did.
Creative.
We swapped, and I became him, and he became me, and I can't even, it's a whole story, but you know, I made it. I mean, I got onto the plane. They never looked at my ticket and my passport at the same time. 22 minutes the plane was held up because now they're confused. They've got two names, mine and his. However, the plane took off and I got to England. And the long and the short of it is that I made it, and they put me through the declared section, the whole bit. I was tested. But I just thought about it, and I thought, what can they do? They can just send me back and I'll pay them off.
Wow.
And I thought, you don't, you know, and so I found my dad's family. A lady, his wife had got sick, and it was the third time I'd been to England to find his family, and his brother's wife had got sick, and they had to put the phone on. And so I rang, and it actually emanated. But I had to go to all these different places. They said, no, we don't help people find their family, And I came home from all of that. I did a 6-month safari through Africa, which is another story. And then I came home, got all my 7 brothers and sisters together and said, right, let's not have Christmas this year. Let's put all the money we would spend for Christmas and send Mum and Dad back to England to get him reunited with his family. It's a wonderful story, and it really worked. And it's just amazing. And I did it on no money.
Okay. So what's coming to me, I just wanted to share something somewhat similar, which is, and I think this whole conversation has to do also with, do we know who we are, and are we committed to whatever it is that we're up to? Because the level of commitment we have is what's going to call us into action. So I just went into business for myself. This has been quite a few years ago. For the first time, I started a consulting firm on my own. And I was about to sign a contract with South Korea, the government, to help them with their wireless technology. And guess what? At the time, I wasn't a citizen yet, and I couldn't get a passport. So I applied for one of those temporary. I don't know if you guys know that the American passport is blue, and you can get a temporary passport. Because I was a legal. What do you call
Alien.
it? I had a green card.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, you're
Immigrant?
So yeah,
No,
so I was legal, but I wasn't a citizen yet because I didn't take my citizenship test. And these guys in Korea basically said, "We're not coming to you. You have to fly to us, and we'll sign your contract."
Right.
And I'm going like, "Oh my God, I can't get a passport." So I applied for a temporary passport,
know that.
and they were giving me, it's the usual government thing, just all kinds of runaround, and it wasn't happening. So guess what I did? And this has to do with exactly what we're talking about on the show, which is follow your own rules. So what society and what the government was trying to tell me, you're going to do it our way, and that is we're going to give it to you when we are ready to give it to you. And I said, no. I have a plane ticket. I got to go. And I don't have any more time. So guess what I did? I got in my car.
You snuggled.
I got in my car and I drove to the passport place, which is a different state than Denver.
Okay.
And I drove there, and I actually looked up where the place was. And I went in there, and I looked on the directory, and they were in the basement. It was a completely secure place. There was no way to get in. Okay, there was no lobby, nothing like that. So I noticed that there was a door there, and people were coming out, and
Nobody going in, but
nobody
everybody
going
coming
out. People were coming out. So I said, okay. So the next time somebody opened the door,
You got in.
I sneaked in, and I went up to somebody. I basically said to her, I said, I am sorry. I probably broke some rules right now, but I have this dilemma. I need some help. I gotta go to South Korea, and I need to get this passport. So she looked at me and smiled, and she said, "Come with me." And she did it on the spot within 20 minutes.
Oh,
I had the
wow.
passport in my hand.
That's following your own rules.
But this is just an example, like what Nina was saying. We can get anything done. All we have to do really is to be committed.
I think all you have to do is make
enough. I think you have to. You need it bad enough if you really want it bad enough. And I hate to say this, that I've always followed my gut, and I've always done majority of. I left home when I was 16, and nobody wanted me to leave, but I didn't see any point in staying. So why wouldn't I leave if I don't like where I am? I left, and I went on from there. But I followed my gut feeling, and at a very, very young age. And I've always kind of done that. In fact, I do teach that, Jessica, of how people can follow their dreams, their whatever you want to call it, but follow what you want to do, because life passes by so fast, and then you end up not doing anything you like, and you blame everybody else for not doing it. And that's what we do. We blame, well, I can't do this because of this, and I can't do that because of... And you look at them and say, why? Because you
But
can
I think
do
one
it.
of the key points here is what you're saying. You can do it. You need to make a decision to do it.
Yes.
It's very different to make a decision than it is to just wish. Like yes, I wish I could find my dad's family, but I made a clear decision that I was going to. And even though it had failed twice before, I still had that decision. I'm going to do that. So for those mums that are at home with their kids, or those people that haven't yet followed their dreams, make a decision. And the universe actually sends everything to you to make it happen. It's like it sent me John. Yeah. It sent me everything to make it happen. So it was like easy as. And once you do it once, then you know...
You say, wow, this works. This works. But that's like sending these messages out. It's also sending them, it's like planting the seed. When you send something out that you want, you will get it. But you've got to start it and send it out there. It's like planting that little seed, but you mustn't forget when you plant the seed, you've got to water it.
Yeah, so what we're also saying, I think, is that if you're really committed to something, like there's something that you're going to do, and the words I usually use is, doesn't matter what. Like really what that means to me, doesn't matter what, is I don't care who says no, there's a way to do it.
Just keep going.
There's a way to do it. And somebody stands in my way, then I'll go, oh, okay, so I can go around him or her.
You're still going to do it.
Underneath, on top, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was real interesting when I'm going to tag on to what Linda said earlier in the show about the financial piece. I was in corporate America making ungodly amount of money, and I really wanted to go into the holistic body-mind, which is where I was drawn. It took me a while, at least a year, and I had to really find a balance and a peace for me to take that first step, because that's life. To leave a huge corporate job that pays your mortgage and supports your family and everything. And yet, I found that really fascinating when I look back now, is that I'm glad I made the decision. It wasn't an easy decision. I mean, to leave a lot over $100,000 a year I was making, you know. But it was the best decision, because I think Jessica also had said something about, or maybe it was Linda, about how look at what you could have sacrificed in your health, because it was a high-pressure job. And luckily I got laid off, which was perfect, because I think I sent that out to the universe, so that kind of solved my problem. So then I just said, okay. So then I just kind of worked that whole issue, and it worked out perfectly when I look back. And it's been like 6 years ago, so. Oh, yeah.
And you never look back.
I never look back. No, don't want to go back either.
And how would you feel, and what would you have to do if you would have to consider going back to corporate America? What would that be like? When you become awake and you become living consciously in your whole life in your body, you can't go back. It's like that old saying that if you've ever left home, you never can go back because it's not the same. And that would be, it's just too structured. It's too political. It's too stale. It's not healthy. It's very toxic to live in corporate America. And unfortunately, I can say that because I've lived in that. I've lived 14 places, worked in Washington, D.C., and I worked in high-power programs with air traffic control. I know what it's like. And unfortunately, most people working in corporate America don't have a clue. They're just kind of all into their mind. How do I pay this? How do I do that? I got to travel here. The kids are going to basketball. You know, they haven't gotten to the place where they have to go, where am I? And what am I doing? Am I following my own rules, or am I following because this is what culture and this is what society says I have to do?
Yeah.
And the body tells you too. The body tells you. So you get these warnings in your body that it's
heart attack, stroke,
well,
cancer. How about cancer?
All that it does
is a sign. The universe will always send you a sign. And I mean, I got lupus. I didn't listen to any of that. I kept going and then I went, okay, got it. I just want to follow what I want to do now, and I'm well. So it's really amazing that the change, not only in your health and wellness, everything changes. Financially, everything changes because you're well.
I think with the audience for our audience out there, I think that, for a lot of majority of people, they've got the 9-to-5 job, they've got the couple of kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, they've got all these obligations. And I think the message you want to give them that there is room for them to be able to do something what they want to do, that real gut feeling, that something that really, really they would like and they would enjoy. And there is room in the 24-hour day to do that. And they've just got to find what it is, or they know what it is, and just to start doing it slowly. And it's amazing because it'll just fit in. It'll fit into your everyday life. It'll fit in where you're going and what you're doing. It's because you'll make room for it, because you'll not do something else that's not important, but you'll do something that may not be as important, but is important to you. And
Yeah,
I think that's
okay.
what is really what you need to do. Something important to you, what you really would like. And you go to bed at night and you're feeling good because I've done
So
something
what's
I
important
really
to you,
like and I'm
Ninan?
happy. What's important to me?
Uh-huh.
At the moment, actually, what's important to me is, good Lord alive, I've got these, there's a lot actually. So, but we'll just do the top.
Having
top
fun in
one.
Vegas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, gambling in Vegas. Whoops. No, the main thing at the moment for me is that I've got these internet TV shows. I have 3 of them now. I have Money Maxed Out, Ninan Speaks, and I'm just starting a new one called The Darling Show. And I'm so focused on all 3 of these shows to make them, it's 3 a week. So I'm doing 3 shows a week every week. And so I'm very, very focused on doing that. But to me, it's not like work. It's not like anything. I've got all this lovely energy of being able to get this person in and get that guest and get this. And then you have to find out all the information. So I'm absolutely in my element. And that's where I'm focused right now. But it's not work. I am enjoying every minute of it. So that's doing something of my passion, of what I like. And I really like it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
What about anybody else? We might as well just go around the table and share with our viewers what's important to us right now.
For me, it's working with women with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. That's very important, and that's my focus. Because a lot of those individuals go through new body self-image issues, emotional issues like being a roller coaster on that, and then also increased pain. So that's my love, and like Ninan says, that's my calling. It's not work. It's just absolutely beautiful, healing, supportive work that I do to help those individuals.
Beautiful.
Okay, awesome. What about you, Linda?
Oh, well, my passion, I think I was put on the planet to teach and nurture, and I just realized that I don't have to do it all myself. and so by running around the world, and Australia's a long way from everywhere, so by the time we go around the world, we're pretty spent. And I used to do that all the time. And so now I realize through online products, which is just being launched, books. I'm writing my 3rd book at the moment. I've just had my 2nd one released. And just doing it in different ways. However, I travel around Australia a lot and work with women, especially in the country, that don't often get the opportunity to go and do these sorts of courses that we offer here in the city. So I go to them. I call it Workshops on Wheels. And I travel, and I'm enjoying it. You know, I take my 90-year-old father with me on some of these tours, and so I've got I've got the best of both. Well, they love him. They say everybody needs a Vic in their life.
That's awesome. So you're like a doctor that still makes house calls.
I absolutely do. Absolutely do.
Wow,
Well, that's
what a way
great.
to put it. That's amazing.
That's awesome. All right, and what about our guest cast? Jessica?
Well, I work with women as well, and who have literally got to that point in their life where when I say they've been there and done that and got the T-shirt, but they've realised they've got the wrong one, and it's not making them fulfilled. So I actually help them find out what that what is, because a lot of time they know it's not right. They've got that inner prompting that something isn't right in their life, but a lot of the times they don't even know what that change might need to be. So I have a program that I work with them to help them find out what it is that they need to change in their life. And it might be a big throw the baby out with the bathwater change, or it might be just a subtle change of direction, and then helping them actually go and create that. And I do that through working individually with them, but I also am just starting to do retreats in Spain, which is wonderful. I've got this fantastic place I go to, and there's no phone connection, there's no internet connection. It really is a step out of life to really come back and discover themselves anew. Lots of silence and meditation and beautiful walks in the mountains, and just a real kind of discovery time. So that's the kind of 2 things that I love to do. And when I'm doing that, just like everyone else here on this today, it's not work. It's much
And I think
more.
that's important, Jessica, what you're saying. It's like some people just want to find out what the what is, but they want someone like all of us that hold them by the hand and say, let me help you. Just take that first step.
Yeah.
Because it really isn't the Grand Canyon, you know. It's just really as wide as your little finger. It's just in your mind. It can be quite huge. And
It's
just
good,
with
yeah.
that, I love it. I love it because when they step over, they go, why didn't I do this earlier? You know, wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so...
It's like giving them the okay. It's like saying it's okay to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
How about you, Steve?
Like you, Lynn, I've just brought out a book which is literally just about that, and it's called The Right T-shirt, because it's about getting. It is your right T-shirt, and we live like, and you said, no, we life isn't a rehearsal. It's like now is the time to do it, and it's never too late.
It's not a dress rehearsal. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is life.
So I actually want to share a couple of things. So mine is that my passion is to create these platforms, the platforms of the Living Consciously TV show on cable television, and a platform that's Conscious Evolution Media, that's an internet TV platform, so that people like yourselves and many other people can share with the world what it is that turns you on, and share your passion and what will make a difference in the world, how we can affect people, how we can have people be touched, moved, and inspired by whatever it is that we do or whoever we are. And that's what I love to do. And I wanted to show something, actually. This is a very quick exercise, because what I'm going to ask everybody to do next...
Oh, a test.
It's not a test. is to come up with something to share with the viewers that will actually... They may remember and can use in their own lives how to get themselves moving, like getting into action. Because I feel that there's so many programs, there's so many help out there, but what's missing from most of them is people don't move into action. Everything's just a concept or an idea, and then what people end up doing is they'll go, okay, so I know what I'm passionate about, and I'm just giving an example. So I love playing trumpet, right? I really love it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it again. I used to do it a long time ago, but guess what? Maybe I just went to a weekend retreat, and it was really inspiring. And now it's Monday morning, right? And the retreat is over, right. and business is back as usual. And so yesterday, this was my dream. Playing trumpet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Today is Monday. This is what happened to my dream.
Oh, okay.
And tomorrow is Tuesday, and this is what happened to me playing trumpet.
It's
the following day, this is what happened to my dream. And the day after, it's like this. And the day after, it's like this. And it gets so small after a while, just a few weeks, that we completely forget it.
It's like corporate training. You go there and they train you. You go, oh, I'm going to go back to the office. I'll do that. You go back, and then after a week, it's like, what? What happened? Same thing. There's nothing.
Unfortunately, we all do that.
Yes.
We all do.
All right, so let's just go around the table and just you don't have to do as good as I did.
Oh, look, is that a man thing going on
Okay,
here?
so just give a tip to the viewers that could make a difference for them in their lives, really.
All right, Ninon, what do you do?
Well,
how do you get yourself moving?
What are you asking?
That's the first time I've seen you pause.
Give an example to the viewers, like how do you get yourself into action? Like what it is that you actually do.
Oh, how do I get myself into action?
Yeah.
I become very, it's like when I was smoking. I was a big smoker. And this is just an example, and I don't know if it's a good one or not. But I had cigarettes all over the place and thought, who was stronger, me or them? And I was stronger. So I take the strong part of where I'm at and what I want to do, and I go into this place that I don't want to fail, and I don't want to not do it, and I don't want to put the word out there that I can do something and then I don't do it. So I really, really stay very, very focused on that one thing, and I will not stop until I've done it. And I just keep on and on to myself. I listen to myself, and I do it myself, and I don't listen to anybody else. And I stay focused on it. It's hard, but I do it.
Okay.
For me,
does that answer good? Yeah. Is that okay?
That's good. That's good.
So for me, mine is swimming. And how do I do that? I do that 2 to 3 times a week. And how I do that is called commitment, meaning that I do that. It is a commitment.
It has become a routine.
Absolutely, but it's a commitment for me first, simply.
Yeah.
So how do you keep it as a commitment? Because I'm having a problem at the moment. I want to walk every morning, and I can't seem to get this going because otherwise either it's too cold here in Vegas or it's too hot. And there's only like 2 months in between where
Don't
it's
you
okay.
have a mall? You can walk inside the mall.
Well,
The mall.
can you undress yourself when it's hot and put clothes on when it's cold?
Well, I could definitely do that. I can't think of anything worse than actually traveling and going to-
I think it depends. Again, we said following your own rules. Commitment for me is very, very important. And when I commit to something, I think I said on a couple shows before, I had a very close friend who was in her 50s that had liver cancer about a year ago. I made a commitment I would call her every week, and I did, every week back to West Virginia. And as she got sicker, I then called her every 2 or 3 days. It was a commitment, and that is very deep and soul, and that's me. So when I do, now I don't have a lot of commitments, but that was a commitment. And she did pass away, unfortunately, to this cancer. But for swimming for me is a commitment, and I do that.
Okay, so what I want to say to Ninan, okay, because I really got her, because I do this. Okay, so as soon as you start listening to yourself, and you start saying, yeah, but it's either too cold or it's too hot.
That's an
and then
excuse.
you have to go, I'm about to ready to talk myself out of my commitment.
There you
It's
go.
an
Right?
excuse.
Because you don't want to do it.
That's correct.
If you don't want to do it, you can't make a commitment on something you don't want to do.
Then I think we have to get really serious with ourselves. Is this really something that you want, or is this just an idea, or what the heck is it? Is it somebody else wants you to do this?
Or
So
does
if
it
it's
sound
important
good?
to you, then
it takes
go
the
do
same
it.
amount of energy. It
Yeah.
takes the same amount of energy to think of all the reasons, Nina, on why and how you can do it, as it does to think of all the reasons why you can't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I don't waste energy on that side anymore. I just say, how can I make that happen? Yesterday, I walk every morning. That's my commitment. I walk every morning, and my students ask me, because they have a chance to ask the teacher, what goes on in your world? And I said, they said, do you walk? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. I said, I walk. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. Snow, ice, rain. I've just been working in the country. I walked with the kangaroos. I came back, there was a snake on the road. I see sunrises everywhere in the world. It's the most magical thing, and I never, ever miss it. And yesterday I came back just in time for a call that we were all on, and I was drenched, and so I had to get warmed up. But I went on that walk, and it's just that commitment. So the 4 things I do is I decide, I believe,
Okay.
I act, and I expect. I decide that I'm going to walk. I decide that I'm going to be a teacher in different modalities now. I act on it, and then I believe I can do it. And I can't not get up and walk now. It's like I would not feel great at all. I don't have the oxygen in your bloodstream. And so for me, I get up and I walk. I can be out the door in 3 minutes.
Okay, ladies.
And then I
this happens to
expect.
us. This
I
happens
hate
to us
exercise.
every week. We're actually running out of time, so we're gonna have to wrap the show up. So I'm sorry that we have to do that, but we can continue next week.